Well. Tony Popovic, the new Socceroos head coach, has just announced his first squad for the national team. And I tell you what, there's some really interesting talking points, some exciting returns, not just from injury, but from international retirement as well. There is so much to discuss when it comes to this squad, and we're going to be live for the next half an hour or so, just discussing the squad, diving into it. We'd love to get your thoughts in the comments. So drop how you feel about this team. Do you think this team is capable of getting results against both China and Japan, two huge matches coming up next week? Let's run through it first of all. Let's just walk through the squad, and then we'll dive into some of the particular players and sort of what we can expect from this team, and as well like a sort of a preferred starting 11 we could see from this team also. So goalkeeping, no changes there in the goalkeeping department. Matty Ryan, Joe Gauci, Paul Izzo. There has been a little bit of debate around the goalkeepers in recent times, especially with Matty Ryan just not getting any game time at Roma, unfortunately. Obviously, it's a great move for him, exciting move joining a big club in Italy, but not getting any time on the field. But Joe Gauci, Paul Izzo there. Obviously, Paul Izzo is sort of the one goalkeeper there that's getting regular game time and obviously has that connection with Tony Popovic from Melbourne Victory. So I almost wonder whether, we could probably maybe see Paul Izzo potentially get a run here in one of these games, especially with that connection to Tony Popovic and the fact that Paul Izzo is the one playing games. Across the defence is quite interesting as well. Obviously, the injury to Alessandro Giccardi is a big blow indeed. But as we can see there, Miller in at right back, and joining him is Jason Guerrier, Melbourne Victory right back. And Tony Popovic, who just finished his press conference moments ago, mentioned the fact that because Melbourne Victory had that big run in the Australia Cup, they played a number of competitive games over recent weeks. That's why I picked a few of these Melbourne Victory players, and Gary is not the only Melbourne Victory player, current Victory player in this squad. Centre back positions there, of course, we've got Suter, Deng in there as well, and Gianni Stensness. Great to see Stensness return to the Socceroos lineup. He was part of the squad a few years ago for the previous qualifying campaign leading up to the previous World Cup. So he's back in defence as well. Burgess and Rolls in there, also left centre back options. And then we've got Boss and Bayage. Geordie Boss returning from injury. He unfortunately missed out in the previous squad. So great to see Geordie Boss back as well. For me, it has to be Socceroos' first choice left back. Hey, great to see some of you guys in the chat as well. Troy says, "Hey, Lockie, love this regular content. It's an exciting time of year for football, indeed." And as Troy says here, perfect segue into Massimo Luongo, who's returning to the Socceroos setup. It caught me off guard. Absolutely surprised me. Didn't see it coming. We heard about the Langerak situation. There was some word online that Langerak had been contacted, that there was a move made for Langerak, and he opted not to return from international retirement. Massimo Luongo retired from international duty. It would have been, was it a year ago? It was like a year or two ago now, maybe like a year and a half ago. He was a part of the Socceroos squad for, I remember those games, the game in Melbourne, which would have been at the back end of 2022, right? Massimo Luongo, that was probably his last game for the Socceroos off the top of my head. Retired from international duty, and now he's back. Of course, great to see, the fact that he's featuring in the Premier League for Ipswich Town. So joining him in defensive midfield, good options there, and O'Neill and Bacchus. It's a return for Aiden Hrustic and Riley McGree in midfield also. Two of those guys returning, great to see. So it certainly is an interesting setup in that midfield area. There's some really fascinating combinations we could have there. In terms of the formation, as we can see here, we've sort of got like a 4-3-3 listed. Not suggesting that that'll be the actual formation that gets played, but just to sort of show the spread of, the squad depth. That's sort of the most effective way to show it. Tony Popovic has played a lot of football with a 4-2-3-1 setup. So we could well see that maybe, a defensive midfield partnership of like O'Neill and Irvine, or O'Neill and maybe Luongo. And then you've got a number of these guys who could play in the number 10 role when Metcalf, Hrustic, McGree, all these guys could play in sort of like a number 10 position for sure. And then that front line, Duke and Stanislopoulos, the strikers. So Cassini Yengi drops out. The right wing, no Martin Boyle. It's Irankunda and Nishan Volupale. Volupale earning a call up to the Socceroos. That is a huge one from Tony Popovic. Craig Goodwin is in there, of course, as well as Sammy Silvera and Daniel Arzani returning to the Socceroos as well. Taggart intellectual mentions Taggart. Yeah, I've seen some people mentioning Taggart online. Where is he? That's another big call from Tony Popovic. It's an interesting one. I mean, especially to bring in Stamatolopoulos, a guy who hasn't played much football this season. He's been injured. But to be fair, obviously Taggart, he only played a few games for Perth Glory this preseason as well. So it's probably you're probably tossing up between those two guys to support Duke there in the striker positions as well. Intellectual says that Duke is overrated. Brady was back in Caceres to get into the squad. Pretty hard to get into that midfield area. I reckon that midfield area is looking really strong for us at the moment. And Brady mentions Caceres here of Sydney FC, who did have a good season last year in the A-League. But another guy who I think we should be talking about is Alex Robertson. Alex Robertson he's sort of become a bit of a fan favourite for Socceroos fans now. And he has missed out on the squad once again, despite being fit, despite playing football for Cardiff City in the English Championship. So that's maybe the only one that we can, sort of debate whether we could fit Robertson into the squad. But again, you look at that midfield department and it's like, who are you going to drop? That's the thing, right? Like my question to people when they suggest players is like, well, who do you drop? You look at that midfield area. Are you dropping any of those guys? We've got obviously a couple of guys who dropped out. Not only do we have to talk about the huge inclusions for this squad, but some of the big players who've missed out. Josh Nisbet drops out of the side. He hasn't done much run for the Socceroos. Hasn't got too much game time for the Socceroos, to be fair. And is playing for Ross County over in Scotland. He has dropped out. We've also got Cammy Devlin, who's dropped out as well. Not too surprising there. I think that defensive midfield area is pretty well covered at the moment. Martin Boyle was the other big one that dropped out. And Aylman Bill, I mean, he returned for the previous window. Didn't have too much an impact. He had limited minutes in those games. So no Aylman Bill either. Robertson is lost to Chile. I believe it's Peru, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I believe it's Peru, the other nation he can play for. I think I'd imagine he's still keen to play for Australia. I'd be surprised if he was to make a change. Sports fan says bring Robertson and maybe drop a winger. I mean, that's an interesting suggestion as well. I mean, there's just so many. That's the thing. I think it's going to be a real headache for Tony Popovic to choose sort of the three midfield players that he's going to go for. Again, it might not be this exact formation. It might be more 4-2-3-1. So they might play sort of with two holding midfielders. If I had to pick you like a starting midfield trio off the top of my head, I'd probably go O'Neill. I mean, he's captaining his side over in Belgium at the moment. I'd probably go O'Neill, and then alongside him, probably Luongo. I think Irvine was a bit shaky in the last couple of games for the Socceroos. I'd probably go O'Neill, Luongo as 2 sixes, and then playing ahead. I mean, you're sort of looking at McGree, who could really flourish in a number 10 role. Obviously, Hrustic can play that position. Metcalf could probably play there as well. I think if McGree's up to it, if he's fit, if he's fully fit, I'd probably play McGree as a 10. Yeah. Good to see Sam in the chat here tonight. Says, hey, Lockie, this is an interesting squad, but a good first one for Popovic. Yeah. Overall, I'm happy with the squad. I am a little bit skeptical about, especially the inclusion of Nishan Volupale. Don't get me wrong. Nishan Volupale is a top winger. One of the best young wingers in the A-League. He is coming off a good Australia Cup run. But it's a real surprise. I don't think any of us expected to see Nishan Volupale called into the squad. Intellectual asks, any idea if Gauchi might start? Potentially. I mean, he's obviously, he featured for Aston Villa last week, which was great to see in the League Cup. Had a decent game as well. But out of those 3 goalkeepers, the one who's playing the most is Paul Izzo. He's the only one that's a starter at their respective club. So if anyone's going to start ahead of Ryan, I reckon it could be Izzo. Sports fan wants to see Lecky back in the team. I think it seems as though Lecky's injured at the moment. He did feature for Melbourne City in the Australia Cup. And by the looks of things, I don't think he's been playing in preseason friendlies. So, but I'll tell you what, if Lecky's fit, he's playing. Once the A-League season starts in a couple of weeks' time, he could potentially get himself back in the squad. Perth Glory Shaw, it's good to see you here as well. We have good wingers. Yeah, the wide areas look pretty strong. It's going to be interesting to see, all those guys can pretty much start on either flank. I mean, we've got Silvera and Arzani listed on the left. They could easily play on the right. Volupale's been playing a lot on the right-hand side for Melbourne Victory in recent times. But for me, I think those first 3 players that we've listed there at the top there, I think those are the 3 guys to start. I think Duke through the middle, Goodwin has to start, obviously. I think he's Socceroos' best player, and Irankunda on the right. We have to see Irankunda start on the right. I think that has to surely be the expectation for Nestor Irankunda to start on that right flank. He started, obviously, he came off the bench in the Bahrain game. It made somewhat of an impact. Probably didn't have the most influential game off the bench, but started. Obviously, you remember Graham Arnold started Irankunda against Indonesia, but he wasn't playing out on the right wing. He was they were playing a 4-4-2 formation, and he was playing as one of those central strikers. And I just don't think it worked for Nestor Irankunda. I think he really flourishes in a wide position when he can take, fullbacks on one-on-one. So I'd love to see Irankunda just give him the start, right wing. Brady says, not going to lie, I want to see more of Volpato. He has potential. Huge opportunity for him. I don't think we'll see him start at all, but could certainly be a super sub for the Socceroos. 1201 in the chat. G'day. It says, what's Luongo doing? I thought he retired. That's probably the biggest story from the squad, isn't it? I mean, Massimo Luongo he called out of retirement. Tony Popovic, he just did a press conference that finished moments ago. He said himself that he did not have conversations with Massimo Luongo. Apparently, people within Football Australia did have conversations with Massimo Luongo. From the sounds of things from Tony Popovic, he made it sound as if Massimo Luongo made himself available. I believe that was the term he used. I could be mistaken, but that sounds to me as if I almost wonder. I don't want to read into it too much, but obviously Massimo Luongo retired from international duty when Graham Arnold was in charge a couple of years ago, and I almost wonder if, due to this coaching change, Luongo's seen that sort of things are shaking up a little bit at the Socceroos. There's going to be a new head coach leading the way, and he's thought, well, maybe I could. This might be my way back in. Was Graham Arnold not going to favour Luongo going forward? Who knows? You just wonder whether, in terms of timing, Luongo just makes himself available as soon as Graham Arnold retires. I don't know. Sorry, I say retires. I mean step down for the role, I should say. Definitely Craig Goodwin. But who knows? We could see Archie Goodwin in a Socceroos shirt in years to come. The GOAT in the chat says Ryan should still be the starting keeper. Yeah, I think for me, I'd still go Matty Ryan. I still think he's the Socceroos number one, despite the fact that he's not playing regular football. But I wouldn't be. I tell you what, I'm pretty happy with the goalkeeping situation at the moment. I'd be happy if any of those guys started, to be honest. I think all those guys are fantastic keepers for sure. So, of course, the focus is turning to these two games. We're taking on China next week on Thursday. We're going to be doing a live watch along for that one. And Perth Glory Shorts here says that China is an easy game. We need those 3 points. We need the 3 points, absolutely. I mean, that China game has to be a must-win, especially considering China haven't made a great start to this round of qualifiers. So that has to be the win for the Socceroos at home against China. Then straight after that, the following Tuesday, we're taking on Japan away. That's going to be a real test for this squad and for Tony Popovic to see how does he navigate this test against Japan, the top nation in Asia. You could probably, it's fair to say, one of the top nations in world football now, Japan. Sam mentions that China is never an easy opponent. Jake says Luongo and Bacchus as a double pivot doesn't sound bad at all. Yeah, that feels like it could be the way forward. I think when Luongo's been getting minutes for Ipswich Town, he's been playing as one of those sixes, been playing on sort of like a left defensive midfield role. And that could see maybe O'Neill or Bacchus play on that right defensive midfield role, or even Jackson Irvine, So there's this, that you look at that midfield area, and that's the one where there's the most puzzle pieces and the most different combinations. Again, we've got a 4-3-3 formation listed here, but it might well be a 4-2-3-1. I mean, we're not talking about the defense as much as well. I think for that back line, I think those top four guys there probably start. I think Miller starts if he's fit. Suter. I mean, you're tossing up between Burgess and Rolls, and I think Boss does start ahead of Bajic if he is fit to go. Obviously, huge blow not having Alessandro Ciccardi in the squad. I mean, ACL injury, devastating for him. Hopefully, it's a speedy recovery for Alessandro Ciccardi, but could be out for some time. It provides an opportunity for Gianni Stensonis to come in here. Would love to see Tommy Deng get some minutes as well. He's been included in the last couple of squads, but hasn't been able to make an appearance. Jason Guerrier, interested to see what role he plays in these games. If he comes off the bench, if he does start ahead of Lewis Miller. You know, Miller did miss the last, despite being included in the squad, he missed the last couple of games due to injury. But Suter has to be starting there, and I think you'd probably maybe go Rolls over Burgess potentially. Rolls getting a little bit more minutes on the pitch for Hearts compared to Cameron Burgess at Ipswich Town. Jake says no more Gethin Jones. We are saved. I think he's still injured at the moment, to be fair. And we've got so many right backs who are out at the moment. Obviously, Nathaniel Atkinson hasn't played any football this season yet. Recently signed with Melbourne City. Who else is missing from the right back department? There was one more. Ryan Strain. Ryan Strain, I believe he's injured at the moment, isn't he? Ryan Strain. Jake also mentions a mix of youth and experience. They'll complement each other well. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Obviously, bringing in, Luongo, Hrustic, these guys are experienced. Very experienced when it comes to the Socceroos. You've got someone like Marcel Luongo, who was a part of that Australia side who won the Asian Cup in 2015, almost a decade ago. And he returns to provide some more experience. And up top as well, obviously, you've got Duke, who's very experienced, Goodwin as well, and then some good young talent joining them as well. Stamatolopoulos is another interesting one as well that we can talk about. I mean, Apostolos Stamatolopoulos over at Motherwell in Scotland had a fantastic season at Newcastle Jets in the A-League last season. Deserved his Socceroos call up at the end of last season, and he's back again. Which he was someone that I mentioned in the video that we did last week, going through 10 options that Tony Popovic could recall for the squad. But I didn't expect him to get the call up. But he's here. He's here, Apostolos Stamatolopoulos, and he's back from injury, which is good to see. In regards to the striker situation, Tarnley says, I'm worried about our strikers. Dukas Stamatolopoulos. I mean, yeah, it's a shame that we don't have Yengi in there. I think for me, Cassini Yengi is someone who I often talk about as being Socceroos' top striker. I think if he's fit, if he's in form, he has to be starting. Matt says here, Goodwin is a must play. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Yeah, I think for the past year now, I've been of the sentiment that Craig Goodwin is our best player. I think when he's in form, Craig Goodwin is the Socceroos' best player at the moment. At the moment. Sam says, I wouldn't say there was controversy. He was never going to displace Matty Ryan. Obviously, a lot of discussion around that goalkeeping position. Hey, I mean, Mitch Langerak, he's obviously retired from international duty. A lot of people, was hoping to see him return, and he's been fantastic over in Japan. And obviously, he's going to be at Melbourne Victory for the second half of the A-League season. Jake with an interesting one here. Milanovic should be getting shouts over Volpato, in my opinion. Yeah, well, there was an interview with Milanovic during the week, right? How Nicholas Milanovic made his his feelings known that he wanted to play for the national team one day. Nicholas Milanovic obviously was very good at Western Sydney Wanderers last season, arguably their best player last season. I'll probably set for another big campaign here for Western Sydney. If he keeps up some good form, he could follow the likes of Volpato and Arzani and Silvera, A-League wingers, to jump into the squad. So he's probably not too far off, Jake. I wouldn't mind it. I think Volpato probably just gets the nod over him for this window, considering that Volpato has been playing in the Australia Cup for Melbourne Victory. Has been playing well too. He's grabbed 5 goals in this Australia Cup run. And obviously Tony Popovic, he's got that connection. So that's always going to favour those Victory guys. So we've got 3 current Melbourne Victory players in the team. Jason Guerrier right back, Nishan Volpato and Daniel Arzani as the wingers as well. Yeah. The grey wiggle. I don't think we'll see Redmayne return for the Socceroos, unfortunately. Yeah, I think he's moved on now, just because there's younger guys now coming through, both Gauchi and Izzo. Andrew Redmayne had a bit of a shaky start to last night's game as Sydney FC ended up winning 4-1 in the Asian Champions League 2. That we were doing a live watch along for that one last night as well. Love you guys are tuning into that one. Troy says, just thought he would have been chosen previously, but wasn't, and ended up retiring. In regards to Langerak, yeah, very happy with our current goalkeeper options. Yeah. That is certainly one to keep an eye on, I think, for these 2 games. The goalkeeping position. Matt Ryan still yet to make a competitive appearance for AS Roma. And you got Paul Izzo, who's playing regularly. He's the starting goalkeeper for Randers in Denmark. You just wonder. And obviously, Paul Izzo has a connection with Melbourne Victory and Tony Popovic. And we remember Izzo had some phenomenal games last season. We think back to that elimination final in the A-League where Paul Izzo had one of the great A-League goalkeeping performances of all time in that game, saving penalties, making some incredible stops. I almost wonder if Tony Popovic in the back of his mind is like, you look at Paul Izzo, he's the only one of these guys playing regular football. Whether you throw him in against China, and if he does, I wouldn't be disappointed. I'd be down for it. I'd be down for it. G'day, Spencer. Spencer says I would have picked Robertson over Arzani. I mean, yeah, obviously, adding another midfielder there. I guess that midfield area is just so stacked at the moment. There's going to be a few of those guys in that midfield department who barely get any minutes in these games. And it's like all of them probably deserve to get some form of appearances in these games. Mariners related question. We'll jump into this one because it is a hot topic at the moment. Thoughts on the Mariners goalkeeper situation? Obviously, Adam Pavlicic has made a shaky start at the Mariners. I put out a video yesterday in regards to my thoughts on the Mariners so far and our poor start to the Asian Champions League Elite. We have to back Pavlicic. We have to get behind him. He's obviously had a really poor start at the Mariners, and he knows that. And but it provides maybe an opportunity for Jack Warshawski to come in and take over as number one. Ooh, Concept Kit Design says, could Curto be an option in the future? Philip Curto, my opinion, one of the top goalkeepers in the A-League. Was incredible in the Australia Cup run for MacArthur. He was a part of the team that won the Australia Cup last weekend. Curto, obviously Polish. He is from Poland. But we have seen players, change allegiances. Most, notably Bruno Fornaroli, who's not in the squad, should be noted. Bruno Fornaroli, who, was Uruguayan and now he's featuring for the Australian national team. Philip Curto, I think if he was keen, if that could happen, I'd be down. I think that'd be an interesting one for sure. I mean, whether he'd get in over these current three options is another debate, but I wouldn't mind seeing Curto in the Socceroos squad for sure. That's right, Curto is indeed Polish, but who knows? We could see a change up. That's right, Cameron. No, Alex Robertson in the squad. That's probably the one disappointing one that fans are probably disappointed to see. No Robertson in the squad. But again, you look at that midfield department, and it's like, who would you drop? I mean, Spencer earlier on said that he'd drop Arzani for Robertson, but then we've got we've got 7 midfielders there already, right? 7. So yeah, it's like who do you drop? Who do you pick? Obviously, Metcalf, he could play at a winger position as well. The good thing about the squad also is that it's relatively versatile. You've got a number of players in the squad who can play a variety of positions also. Obviously, Stensson is playing a lot in defence for Viking over in Norway. But when he was at Mariners a few years ago, he was fantastic and he was playing as a defensive midfielder. So a lot of versatility here, especially up there in the front line as well. A lot of those guys can sort of rotate around either wing. But I mean, Alex Robertson, surely he's going to be picked soon enough. I mean, he's had limited minutes for the Socceroos over the last couple of years. But I think hopefully he stays injury-free and does have a good season ahead at Cardiff. And if he gets those regular minutes, I'm sure he'll force his way into the side. The one player, I will say, the one player that I did consider that I reckon Alex Popovic, that's Sydney FC defender, Tony Popovic, could have swapped out for this one in regards to Alex Robertson, is Jackson Irvine. And I know that's maybe a bit of a controversial call, but he was really off it, I think, for the last 2 games for the Socceroos. Really, really off it. Obviously, he's featuring for his club, St. Pauli, so that sort of helps him. And obviously, nothing against Jackson Irvine. He's been a fantastic servant for the Socceroos over the years. But, you look at those two guys, and two sort of relatively similar players, sort of play a similar role. Alex Robertson and Jackson Irvine, two hard-working midfield players. I wonder if we could have seen that. Maybe one of these more experienced guys dropping out to provide the way for a younger option in Alex Robertson. Jake mentions that Chicati's ACL is a big loss for us. Absolutely. I mean, Alessandro Chicati, obviously the Socceroos, their performances in the last couple of games weren't good. And Chicati was probably Australia's best player in those two games. He played at right back and an unfamiliar role and did really, really well playing in that right back position. And it's a shame. It's a real shame. If he's fit, he would absolutely be in the squad. So it's a real shame. And we wish him a speedy recovery. Absolutely. What do you think about qualifying? Well, that's the focus now for Tony Popovic, is navigating these upcoming matches. So against China and Japan, we should be getting a win against China. That has to be the expectation. We just simply need to, just because of the current situation where we sit in the table. The Japan game is just a different kettle of fish. If we can get a draw, I think that would be a hugely positive result for Australia, playing away to Japan. And then if we could get that, if we could get 4 points from these two games, that would be huge, I think. And that would help us get back on track for sure. Cameron says, I love Milanovic, but Nish has looked good, from a Western Sydney Wanderers fan. Yeah, the Lupale. Like, he was good last season, and obviously has been great in this Australia Cup run. And it's a big, big inclusion for Tony Popovic to bring him in. And an opportunity. And I don't mind it. Again, I don't mind it. I think after sort of the feeling after those last couple of Socceroos games last month, and we did a bunch of videos reacting to those games, is we wanted to see a bit of a shake-up in the squad. It was time for a bit of a freshen up. And look, it's not like a huge squad overhaul. We've got some players returning from injury who we probably expected to see return, with the likes of McGree and Boss. But I do like how there is a real fresh feel to the squad. Geria coming in, Stensness returning, Luongo returning from retirement, Volpato, another good young option. Azani's back in the team as well. At midfield looks a bit fresher, doesn't it? I mean, we could potentially see, it could potentially be a midfield three of Luongo, Hrustic, and McGree, potentially. That would be interesting as well. Pardon me. Jordan says, Luongo's back. That's right. Luongo's back. I mean, that has to be the biggest story from the squad announcement, the fact that Massimo Luongo has been brought back to the soccer setup, coming out of international retirement. Absolutely huge. Cameron says, hopefully Jordy Boss gets high up the pitch. Absolutely. He's a fantastic attacking left back, wing back, if you like. A thing that we did see Graham Idle do quite a lot, you might remember, over the past year or so, is play Jordy Boss as a left winger. He would often bring Aziz Bayic on at left back and push Jordy Boss up to the left wing. Whether Tony Popovic wants to do the same thing, maybe. Obviously, Tony Popovic was coaching Jordy Boss's brother in non-victory last season, Casey Boss. I remember some people have mentioned that who knows, maybe in the future we could see the Boss brothers featuring on the left-hand side for the Socceroos in future years. Maybe. Well, this is Jordan's live reaction. Just looking at this for the first time. There we go. And Jordan is indeed shook. And I was shook too, Jordan. I was shook too. I didn't expect, there were some names here I did not expect to see. I mean, Luongo's the biggest one. I did not expect to see Volpato in there. I didn't really expect to see Azani back. Obviously, Azani has that Melbourne Victory connection with Tony Popovic. But Daniel Azani returning is an interesting one for sure. Obviously, Azani's been in the headlines for the past week after being dropped from the Australia Cup final. D'Agostino injured. A few of the Socceroos from small leagues seem not to be there. I believe he has been injured of late, Jordan. Yeah, I don't think he's been playing much lately. Yeah. Jake also says, asks, do you think Cam Pepignon is knocking on the door if he gets a Premier game? I think he's probably. Yeah, probably. I think he's still sort of a little bit down the pecking order. But in terms of an attacking midfielder, another young option to come in, he's in the vicinity. He's in the vicinity. And as you say there, Jake, I think if he was to get some minutes in the Premier League, which is a chance, could happen sometime this season. Yeah, absolutely. Still very young. Sort of a similar situation to, I guess, Alex Robertson. I mean, who knows? Maybe Cam Pepignon could secure a loan move to get some more game time. Jordan also reckons that Daniel Arzani is a huge surprise. Again, one of these guys who's been playing, competitive football recently in the Australia Cup for Melbourne Victory. So that has probably helped him getting the call up once again for the Socceroos. My question for you guys now is what's your starting 11 from this squad? What's your first choice starting 11? Because there's some different routes we can go. Again, we've listed this as a 4-3-3. Not that that'll be the formation that we play. It might well be a 4-2-3-1. But what is your first choice starting 11 from this squad? Who are you picking? I think there's some positions that are pretty straightforward, especially up top and in midfield. There's so many different ways you could go, and different formations you could play too. There's a lot of different formations you could play. So we'd love to hear from you guys. Who are some players that have to be starting for the Socceroos that are sort of locked in for a start for Australia in that game against China next week? Spencer says Gauchi to start. That'd be interesting. Well, I'll tell you what, it'd be great to see, especially in Adelaide. The Adelaide boy, the Adelaide keeper. I don't even know if he's actually from South Australia. He obviously just featured for Adelaide United for a few years there. Spencer's got a back four of Geria, Suter, Stensonis, and Boss. Ooh, Stensonis starting. That's an interesting one. Midfield, Bacchus, Metcalf, Frustich. I think we could see that. That's probably a realistic midfield. Goodwin, McGree, and Dukes. Yeah, that's actually another thing we should mention. McGree can play in a wide position, so we could see that as well. I don't mind that lineup there, Spencer. I think Stensonis in defence, that'd be interesting to see him start for sure. Nardo says anyone but Duke and Irvine. Jordan has picked out back four. Says Bajic, trust him always. Rolls, Suter, and Miller would be my back four for sure. Yeah, look, I mean, that left back position is strong. You've obviously got Aziz Bajic, who's always pretty reliable for the Socceroos. Didn't do too much wrong in the last couple of games for Australia. Personally, I would go for Boss. I just think he offers a bit more going forward. Jake has dropped his team here. He says, I want to see Rolls pair Suter. Necessary start on the right. Double pivot between Bacchus, Irvine, Luongo, O'Neill. Dukey up top. Yeah, I think Duke starting up top is probably a lock. Stamatolopoulos sort of recently returning to action from Motherwell, so I don't think he'll start. So I think Duke is pretty much a lock to get a start. Glory Short says front three of Goodwin, Duke, and Irukunda. Yeah, I think that's my front three as well. And then you've got some good impact players who can come on in Stamatolopoulos, Lupale, Silvera, Arzani. Those guys as super subs. I like it. Troy, for his starting 11, says Ryan, Boss, Burgess, Suter for the heights, yeah. Miller, I like that back line. Irvine, Luongo, Metcalf in midfield, and then as well, Irukunda, Duke, and Goodwin starting. G'day to Ashton. Ashton says Nishan was a surprise, but a great pick. That's right. For any Star Wars fans in the chat, it reminds me of that meme, the Palpatine meme from Phantom Menace. A surprise to be sure. I can't remember the quote. It's something like that. Any other Aussie nines about? I mean, not too many who are fit and playing regular football. And obviously, another one that was maybe a chance to get into the squad was Bruno Fornaroli with his Melbourne Victory connection to Tony Popovic, obviously. And he's obviously featured for the Socceroos in the past. But unfortunately for Fornaroli, bit of a tricky situation at the club at the moment because he's not starting. He's been on the bench for Melbourne Victory in this Australia Cup run. G'day to Chuck Meat says Robertson, Nisbet, Taggart, and Elder should all be in the squad. Yeah, I mean, Josh Nisbet was the surprise, I think, to see him drop out. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Mariners fan, but I think Josh Nisbet, he's fit. He's playing for Ross County. He was in the last couple of Socceroos squads. He is a really unique midfield player. It's able to unlock a defence. I guess it's tricky when you got the likes of McGree and Hrustic coming back in, those midfield options. Taggart is the other one, Chuck. I think Taggart is. I think he's a bit hard done by to be dropped from the squad. But I guess just the reality of the situation is the Taggart's not playing football at the moment because the A-League is yet to start. We are, of course, very excited for the A-League to get underway in just a couple weeks' time. We'll be doing plenty of content and live watch-alongs for the A-League season, which is just around the corner. Trampoline in the chat says, glad no Redmayne. I don't think we'll see a Redmayne return for the Socceroos anytime soon, unfortunately for him. Just got some better, younger options coming through now in Gauchi and Izzo. In terms of those strikers, Jake's mentioning Taggart, Yengi, Bruno. Ashton's backing Arzani to start on the right, not the left. Yeah, could definitely see him there as well. Has featured on the right wing for Melbourne Victory a lot over the last year. So those wide players can definitely play in either position. Yeah, so this is sort of a look at the squad depth as well. Not necessarily these players are locked into these positions. They could play anywhere across the pitch. Chuck also says, I think Ballard and Farrell should be here as well as Metcalf. Metcalf is in. Ballard is another one that would have been great to see. He's been playing over in the Netherlands. He's been getting some decent game time in the Netherlands. But again, another one of these guys sort of similar to Cammy Devlin, where it's like they're just running out of spots in that defensive midfield area. O'Neill and Back is certainly first choice defensive midfielders for the Socceroos squad, I think. And then Ballard's close behind. Ballard's will surely be called up soon enough. Farrell's unfortunately picked up another injury, I believe. Again, another one of these guys who is certainly on the fringe for the Socceroos will surely be called up soon enough. Iredale, John Iredale, we'd love to see him feature for the Socceroos again in the future. Again, another one of these guys who I think still has a lot of potential. It is interesting. I tell you what, a feature of the Socceroos squads over the last couple of years for Graham Arnold is that he has generally picked a lot of strikers. That is usually because Socceroos have recently been playing a 4-4-2 formation, sort of been playing with two strikers. But this does indicate to us that there will be only one striker featuring up top in a starting lineup. Cameron says, hopefully Eunice kicks on. He looks good for PSV. Yeah. Scored a cracking goal as well the other day. Marcus Eunice on loan from Western Sydney Wanderers over in the Netherlands. A-League predictions soon. Absolutely. We'll be doing a ladder prediction in the next week or so. Keep an eye on the channel for my ladder prediction video, which is usually one of the more controversial videos of the season. So the ladder prediction will be coming out in the coming days for sure. Fireball in the chat says this squad won't beat Japan. I mean, I don't know if any squad that we could assemble could beat Japan, unfortunately. And that's just a reality of the situation. Japan have some players playing at the top level of world football, some of the biggest clubs in the world. So many dangerous players that they're, for me, the top team in Asia at the moment. I think in terms of the Japan game, which is coming up in a couple of weeks' time, if we can get a draw away to Japan, that will be huge for Australia. That would be a huge, huge result if we can get a draw away. That would be fantastic. Ooh, an interesting one from Chuck, mate. Could Yakalish be a good shout? It's interesting that you say that, Chuck. I mean, Marin Yakalish has had a great Australia Cup, really good Australia Cup, part of the side that won it, MacArthur SC winning the Australia Cup. And Yakalish, I remember, was it in an interview or something that he did when he first came to the A-League last year for Melbourne City, how he had aspirations to play for the Australian men's national team. So, yeah, I mean, if he has a strong season at MacArthur, we could see it. I mean, that's the thing that we've seen from the Socceroos over the years now, is that if you have a good season in the A-League, you will be called up to the Socceroos. You don't have to go overseas to get a call up for the men's national team, which is great to see. If you're playing well in the A-League, if you're performing well, if you're getting regular minutes in the A-League, you will be called up to the squad. We've got a number of A-League players in the squad. We've got current A-League players: Jason Geria, Nishan Volupale, Daniel Arzani, and obviously a number of these players who have recently played in the A-League. Stamatolopoulos had a great season at Newcastle Jets, put himself into Socceroos contention. 12 months ago, if I told you Stamatolopoulos was getting a Socceroos call-up, you'd call me crazy. But here he is. And great to see. Stamatolopoulos has been fantastic over the last 12 months. Almost all these guys have featured in the A-League over the years. Chuck says, I reckon I think Hayden Matthews is Socceroos quality. One for the future. Yeah. One for the future. Fantastic young defender at Sydney FC. Ashton says if the Boss brothers played together in the national team, we would win the World Cup. Yeah, dude, the Boss brothers just tearing it up on the left-hand side. Yeah. Nardo, any word on Volpato? Nah. From my point of view, look, I don't know anything, but I don't think we'll see Volpato feature for Australia. I don't think we're going to see it. I don't think we're going to see it. The narrative seems to be that he just doesn't want to play for Australia. That's the way that I see it. I don't know if that'll change. It could. Who knows? But from my point of view, I have no expectation that Christian Volpato will play for the Socceroos ever. Again, I don't know anything. That's just what it seems like. You know, if you wanted to, I'm sure we can make it happen. Roundball Australia says, if you said Nishan Volupale would get a Socceroos call-up 12 months ago, I'd call it even crazier. That's right as well, yeah. I mean, another example of one of these young guys who have done really well in the A-League. Didn't have like an incredible season. He was very good for Victory and got regular minutes. But great to see. He's getting an opportunity. I'm backing Popovic for throwing him in there. That's an interesting question, Ashton, and I think there's probably an argument that Izzo could well start in at least the China game. Paul Izzo, out of these three goalkeepers, is the one who's getting regular game time. Matt Ryan stuck on the bench at AS Roma. Joe Gauci on the bench at Aston Villa, but made an appearance in the League Cup last week. Paul Izzo's getting regular game time at Randers in Denmark. There is a chance he starts. I think there is a chance. Mr. Roberti, 17. Good to see you here in the chat. Thanks for jumping in. Says glad to see Luongo back in the fold. It's a feel-good story, isn't it? Mas Luongo, part of the Socceroos team that won the Asian Cup in 2015, retired from international football last year, and he's back. He's back. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We're going to be live for a little bit longer. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. You can also consider sending through a super chat. We've got a bunch of live streams coming up in the coming weeks. Can confirm for you guys now, we will be doing a live watch along for the Australia-China game next week. We will be live next Thursday for that watch along. Ashton asks, what formation do you think we could be playing? I think the expectation is that it will be a 4-2-3-1. I think the expectation is that it will be a 4-2-3-1. I think we'll play with two holding midfielders and a number 10. So that midfield area is probably the one where there's the most sort of, chopping and changing in terms of, who do you deploy, who do you start. Again, if I had to pick three midfielders to start as two holding midfielders, I would probably go O'Neill and probably Luongo. I'm excited about Luongo being back in the team, as you guys are. I'd probably go O'Neill and Luongo as the two holders, and then in a number 10 position, I said McGree earlier, but I'd be happy to see Hrustic start there. I'd be happy to see Metcalf start there as a number 10. But probably Hrustic, to be honest, actually. I think, allow him to start. And then you got, the likes of Metcalf and McGree who could come off the bench. I do think Irvine should maybe be dropped to the bench. That's my feeling at the moment. Jake says, Lockie Brook, going to the MLS made me mad. Feel like a championship or Scottish League move could have turned him into a Socceroos player. We have obviously seen a lot of, Aussies who have gone from the A-League over to Scotland or England and been called up to the Socceroos. That has been a common theme of late. But it's an interesting career move for Lockie Brook, who made the move from Wanderers to the MLS in the off-season. Over at Real Salt Lake. Salt Lake, isn't he? At the moment. Tan Lee says, how I'm reading from Popovic, he did say he doesn't want to sell the Socceroos to players. So Volpato, not likely. Yes, that was another big takeaway from the press conference. Tony Popovic did a press conference in regards to this squad announcement just about an hour ago now. And yeah, he made that quite clear, didn't he? That he wasn't going to sell playing for the Socceroos to any players. It felt almost like a bit of a direct sort of... It felt like it was almost directed at the kind of player like Christian Volpato, who maybe we feel like fans maybe feel like, we need to try and convince him. I think Graham Arnold said over the years that he had meetings or he was in communication with Volpato. I recall Graham Arnold saying that he had communication with Christian Volpato. keeping in touch with him. But as you say there, Tanley, I think there's going to be no. It sounds like Tony Popovic. There's going to be no sort of him chasing up Christian Volpato. So as you say there, I don't think we'll see him. Jordan asks, is Irvine really that out of form due to Bundesliga captain? It's a great point. It's great to see him playing in the German top flight. I just think a different midfield setup. Nothing against Jackson Irvine. I think maybe a different midfield setup might be the way to go for these couple games. Ashton says Jake Brimmer, if he gets a good season at Auckland, could he get a call up? Yeah, for sure. For sure. Again, you've got that Melbourne Victory connection. Jake Brimmer was at Melbourne Victory with Tony Popovic for a couple of years there. There's absolutely a chance. There's absolutely a chance if he has a good season at Auckland FC. Big signing for Auckland, signing the Johnny Warren medal winner, Jake Brimmer. Chuck says, I think Duke and Bajic are players we should move on from. I think their experience is still valuable. I think they still play an important role in our squad. And I think Bajic is definitely a decent left-back option. For me, Jordy Boss has to be starting at left back. I think he's fantastic and has got such a bright future. In my opinion, I think Jordy Boss will be Australia's first choice left back for the next decade, as long as he stays injury free. Obviously, you've got Jacob Farrell, who we were talking about a bit earlier, could potentially, contest in that left back position as well. Duke, I think, still has a couple more years. He does play a decent role. Tall, strong striker. But yeah, we need some more strikers coming through for sure. Bovalina and Elder. Yeah, Callum Elder was another one of these guys that we mentioned in that video last week that we did 10, potential returns for the Socceroos. 10 potential call-ups that Tony Popovic could make for the squad. Callum Elder's been playing for Derby County in the Championship regularly. So I think he's another one of these guys who's sort of on the edge. I think if Jordy Boss was still injured, Bajic, I guess you could name him as the only left back, but Callum Elder could maybe had a look in. Bovalina is another one that I've mentioned in the past as well. He's playing, I don't think he's playing regularly. I don't think he's a regular starter for Vancouver Whitecaps in the MLS, but he's a fantastic attacking right fullback, sort of similar to Lewis Miller in the way he plays. I'd love to see him get a call up maybe in the future. Yeah, Matthew Page mentions here as well. I think Triantis should have been given a go sometime soon. Yeah, as you guys are mentioning here in the chat, like so many players who aren't in the squad who could easily get a look in. It's great. It just goes to show the depth that I think the Socceroos has right now. And I think we should be excited for the future of the Australian men's national team. There's some fantastic options that we have. And Triantis is now at Hibs on loan from Sunderland once again. And more of a centre back, but as we've been seeing at Hibs, I think he's been playing as a defensive midfielder, which is interesting. Cameron's mentioning Noah Skoko, son of Josip Skoko, former Socceroo, of course. Another one for the future, for sure. For sure. Fireball reckons Elder should be in for Bajic. Now, that's an interesting one, especially considering that Bajic isn't playing football at the moment. The A-League season is yet to start, as is Bajic, the captain of Melbourne City for the upcoming A-League season. That's an interesting suggestion. Yeah, especially considering Callum Elder is getting much more regular football. Jordan also says, I think they both keep producing, though, in regards to Duke and Bajic. Keep picking Duke and Bajic until they stop doing well, always 7 out of 10. Yeah. I sort of agree with that, Jordan. They're always put in a pretty decent performance. They're generally pretty reliable. Ryan Teague from Victory. That's another one for the future. Like a lot of these guys that we're talking about here, I think he's probably maybe a couple of years off, but one of the top defensive midfielders in the A-League, in my opinion, Ryan Teague. He was great last season. Again, that defensive midfield area, there's a number of options we could look at. Obviously, Max Ballard was another one we talked about earlier today. Cammy Devlin. And Ryan Teague is another one as well. Ryan Teague has featured for the Olyroos in the past as well, the under-23s. So he's another one who's probably on the radar of Tony Popovic. And if Ryan Teague, again, similar to Volpato, similar to Geria, if he has a good A-League season, he could certainly get the call up there. I think Geria has deserved his call up, but I think the thing that has helped is the fact that we're missing so many right backs. Atkinson hasn't been playing football. No Ryan Strain, no Gethin Jones. Don't get me wrong though, Geria absolutely deserves that call up though. So yeah, I think if we were missing a few more defensive midfielders, the likes of Teague, of Ballard, might be able to earn a first call up. Cameron says, I hope Noah Botic gets moved somewhere. Someone new. Looks like he's stuck, but looked quality for the Socceroos. Yeah, I mean, he was a guy who a few years ago, a lot of people were really excited about going forward as a future potential Socceroo. And as you say there, is featured for the Socceroos. Just unfortunately had a really poor season at Western United last year, didn't score many goals. And yeah, as you say there, Cameron, I think a move away from Western might be the way forward, because Western United have signed a top Japanese striker in Hiroshi Ibusuki, and some other good young strikers there. So I wonder how much game time Noah Botic is going to get at Western United this season. He might not be a starter. And a couple of years ago, he was sort of one that a lot of us looked at as maybe a future Socceroo striker, Noah Botic. So we'll see how he goes at Western United this season. Tarnley says Paul Ocon Jr. Yeah, another one for the future and another good defensive midfield option as well. We're going to be live for the next 10 minutes or so here. Great to see you guys tuning in for this live watch along. This is sort of a new thing for us as well. We've done them here and there over the years, but if you guys are keen for these sorts of live streams where it's when there's big breaking news like a Socceroo squad announcement, if you guys are keen for this kind of thing, let me know. If you want to support the channel, then make sure to hit the like button. And we'd love to get any thoughts or questions in the live chat here. Great to see some of you guys tuning in once again for a little Friday lunchtime live stream. What else are we saying here? Yeah, Ashton says Will Curto from the Bulls get a call up from the national team. Yeah, we talked about it a bit earlier. I mean, he's had a great Australia Cup for Macarthur, and I think he's one of the top goalkeepers in the A-League. Obviously, he is Polish. He is from Poland. But we've seen some players make the change. Obviously, Bruno Fornaroli, Uruguayan, but made the change to play for the Australian national team. So who knows? Could happen. Where is Yangi? That's right. No Yangi, unfortunately, in the squad. Fireball says, I haven't seen McLaren and Leckie for a while. Feels like they offer a lot more than Duke. McLaren's an interesting one. Jamie McLaren. He made the move over to Mohun Bagan in India, the current club of Dimitri Petrados, of Jason Cummings. And yeah, Jamie McLaren, he's an interesting one. It seems that he's sort of really faded out of Socceroo selections now. It doesn't seem that he's in any sort of discussions. People rarely mention him. Leckie, I think, is still worth looking at if he has another good A-League season. If he's injury free, that's the thing for Leckie. He's struggled a bit with injuries over the years, isn't he? Are you going to Unite Round? Yes, very much looking forward to Unite Round, which is only like a month or so, or month and a half away. I don't believe McLaren retired from international duty, unless I'm mistaken. I don't believe so. Unfortunately, Chikati's injured, Clyde. He's out with an ACL injury. Huge blow for the young defender. No Alessandro Chikati. He was probably Australia's best player in those last couple of games against Bahrain and Indonesia. So no Chikati for the near future, at least. Jordan Murray. Yeah, that's a throwback as a Mariners fan. We miss Jordan Murray. First round grand final rematch thoughts. Very much looking forward to it. I'll be at the game. I tell you what, I think Melbourne victory at this rate are probably favourites to win it too. I know that's coming from a Mariners fan. The Mariners, I think we're still figuring things out for this season. And Melbourne victory have had a great run in the Australia Cup and have a great team on paper. So I think that opening match for the A-League season in just 2 weeks' time, 2 weeks from today, Central Coast Mariners hosting Melbourne victory for the first game of the season. I'd take a draw. As a Mariners fan, I would take a draw round, to be honest. I will take a draw. We are very excited for the A-League season, which is just 2 weeks away. We'll be doing plenty of content around it. Ladder prediction is coming out on the channel very soon. Well, we'll also be doing a bunch of live watch-alongs throughout the season as well. We're going to be finishing up in about 5 minutes here. Make sure to drop a like here on the stream if you haven't done so already. Socceroos squad has been announced today, and it's a strong one. Plenty of versatility from a number of these players. Again, the big news is Luongo returning. We're very excited about that. Very curious to see what the starting 11 looks like for that China game as well. Does Luongo start? Is there a different goalkeeping shake-up? Is Ryan going to start, or could Gauchi, get the start in front of the Adelaide faithful, or could Paul Izzo, who's getting regular minutes, get a start as well? Yeah, we probably will do an A-League Fantasy League. I don't think, have they announced A-League Fantasy or tipping yet? We're only 2 weeks out and they haven't announced it yet, so we should get an announcement in regards to the A-League official fantasy and tipping soon. I'd expect. No worries, Ashton. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Koto, again, yeah, another one that we've mentioned here a couple of times. I think he's a chance, considering that he's had a great Australia Cup run, but obviously the main thing is that he has to make himself eligible for Australia. He is Polish, of course, Philip Koto, but one of the top goalkeepers in the A-League for sure. But I guess with Philip Koto, it's a matter of whether you would replace any of these current goalkeepers, with Philip Koto. I mean, Ryan, Gauchi, Izzo there. I think these three, that trio, are going to be a lock for some time going forward. Matt Ryan probably still has, a few more years to offer for the Socceroos for sure, I reckon. He is eligible for Australia? Well, there you go then. There you go. Only edits are could Mohamed Toure become our striker? Yeah, again, another one for the future. He's one that I'd love to see get a run for the Socceroos. As long as he keeps getting some decent minutes over in Europe, then yeah, he's going to put himself in contention for sure. Mohamed Toure, another former Adelaide player. Hey, again, another one of these guys. He's featured for the Oldie Roos before, hasn't he? That's right, Pichu. That's another one of the big shocks for this squad. Volpato included in the team. Good run in the Australia Cup for him. 5 goals in the Australia Cup run for Melbourne Victory. He is in the squad. Nishan Volpato obviously has that Melbourne Victory connection with Tony Popovic. The 3 current Melbourne Victory players in this squad: Jason Guerrier, Nishan Volpato, Daniel Arzani. 3 current Melbourne Victory players. Interesting question, Simon. What position would you say is our weakest? That's a very interesting question, actually. Which position is our weakest? I think I might say up the strikers. Nothing against those 2 guys there, Duke and Stamatolopoulos. I think Yengi's still our first choice striker going forward, but that feels like the position that it isn't really established in terms of having obvious quality options there. Again, nothing against the options there. I think they're all talented players, but if I had to pick a position that maybe feels like it's up for debate in terms of who starts there, and maybe we need some different options, maybe that striker position. I look at the other areas of the pitch. I think defensively we're solid. Sutar, obviously fantastic centre back. I think the goalkeepers and defence are solid. I think our midfield's very strong. I think the Socceroos midfield is very strong, and I think in the wide areas we're looking strong. So I'd probably say striker. And as Clyde asks here, what position do you think is our strongest? Probably is that midfield area. Sort of the central midfield position. I mean, you've got a few guys who can sort of play a bit deeper, and a few guys who maybe more so play as like number 10s as playmakers. But that just in general, that midfield area, there's definitely some great options there. Can Volpato play as a striker? I don't think he's played. I don't think he's featured there for Melbourne Victory. Potentially, we could see that maybe. Yeah. Where would we place in the next World Cup? If we can get through the knockouts, that'll be another good result for Australia, I reckon. What MacArthur FC players could be another option for the Socceroos. Well, another one that someone mentioned earlier. I apologize, I can't remember who it was, but Marin Jaklic just had a great Australia Cup run. And who knows, maybe we can see him earn an Australia call-up as well. Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in for this live reaction to the Socceroos squad. It's been very enjoyable and it's been great to get your thoughts. We're going to do more of these in the future, I think, especially when big breaking news drops like Socceroos squads. We will be doing a live watch along for both Socceroos games coming up in the next couple of weeks. Thursday nights taking on China, and then the following Tuesday night taking on Japan away. Two huge games for the Socceroos. We need to get our qualifying campaign back on track. And of course, we've got plenty of videos and content coming out over the next couple of weeks in regards to the A-League season, which is exactly 2 weeks away. Hit the like button on the way out. Thanks very much once again for tuning in. My name's Lockie. This is Coastwood Football. Enjoy the rest of your Fridays. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.